Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So we are doing another little sketchbook session, and I thought it'd be fun to do a little bit of mixing up some of my mediums together. It's not going to be something crazy. I'm going to be using my favorite pen, my pencil that I love to sketch with, alongside with a little bit of alcohol markers. So from top to bottom, we have my sketching pencil, we have the pen that I'm going to do our line art with, and then we have our alcohol markers to help block in a little bit of values and add a bit of color. So I'll make sure to link these all in the description if you're interested in what I'm using, but let's go ahead and move on to what we are going to be sketching today. So I was kind of like browsing through Pinterest a little bit, mostly for like outfit ideas, and I thought it'd be cute to draw Reimu Endo, who's one of my Oshis or Niji-sanji, in a couple of like spring inspired outfits. Now, I'm not a person who really dresses, I think, appropriately for the weather. I tend to wear a lot of like longer sleeves or like chunkier sweaters and stuff, regardless of the heat. Typically, unless it gets like super hot, then I'll wear like shorts, t-shirts, lighter cardigans, etc. But I don't think I have a good sense of fashion, so I thought it'd be cuter to actually look up proper outfits for drawing Reimu in, I guess, is what I was planning to do today. So hopefully I remember to insert pictures of screenshots of the outfits that I was kind of looking at. I'm not going to be directly referencing the photo for like the pose or like all the accessories that the references had for their outfits. I just want like a general idea of what I wanted, and hopefully I can kind of like tailor them a little bit more towards Reimu's aesthetic in general. I kind of want to do a little bit more like digital sketching later on with some of the outfits, so I can kind of color coordinate the outfits a little bit better. We can add like smaller accessories and just like, I don't know, I think it'll just be fun to do a few more designs. I have done, I think it's like Racer Reimu, and I've done a few other ones that I just like sketching her in different outfits depending on like the situation, but I wanted to do maybe an illustration that's more like towards spring. She has kind of like a lighter color palette more recently. Her original design has more like dark pinks, some blacks, and kind of like more muted colors with small pops of vibrant pinks and vibrant blue. But I wanted to potentially play around with a softer color palette, which you'll see a little bit later that I will stick to more of like pastel colors for our shading today. So starting off with the sketching of our first one, I am going to be kind of like working from left to right so that I don't end up smudging anything. So I ended up sketching with the blue colored lead from the Unidia Color Nano lead set for the Hi-Tec Coletto C little cartridges that is kind of like compatible. It's like a 0.5, and I really like this lead. It's very like creamy and silky feeling, so it's fun to sketch with, and I don't know, I like using it to jot down ideas and just like scribble really quickly because it glides really nicely. I feel like it doesn't really have any scratchiness, so it's been kind of like my go-to instead of using the red more recently. So I am kind of switching it up. Typically, if I'm using this combination of mediums together, I like to add my alcohol markers or any of my coloring steps first, and it will be kind of like done during this time right after I finish the sketch. But instead, I decided that to have like more of a cleaner look, in a way, I wanted to do the line art first, and then I will be coloring more or less within my lines and blocking out shadows and all that. I have done this in a previous sketchbook. I think it's the one before this one that I ended up doing more cleaner sketches while inking. It's mostly of Kaisen, I think, and Masaki, but I like the look of those where you can kind of like easily see the folds or like certain shadows a little bit more clearer than when I'm like willy-nilly kind of placing any of the colors and then deciphering what I've placed down and adding ink afterwards. So for coloring, I wanted to only choose like one color per sketch that we'll do on the spread for today. I didn't really want to do a mixture of like too many colors or like really blocking anything in, despite me saying like, I think last week I mentioned that I wanted to do potentially more full colored illustrations or something like that, but do it more with the cell shaded look. And I might do that maybe for the next page after this and just do a bit of testing, because the markers don't really work too well when I work with the sticker paper as like the replacement or like the cover up for my sketchbook to prevent bleed through and all that. So it's really hard to blend on that paper. So using kind of like more of a cell shaded style probably would work the best, but I'll kind of play around with that and see how I like it, and maybe we can do a spread with that as well for like next coming weeks or so. So I did kind of botch up the outfit a little bit. I found that I made her sweater a little bit too wide between, I guess, like part of her bust and her hip area to where her arm comes in contact with her body. So it made her have like a bit of a estranged shape. So I ended up kind of taking it in and just letting it overlap with the sleeve that's like touching into the base of the shirt. And then after that, we placed down our flats for our alcohol markers for color. And I chose kind of like a pinkish purple. It's still on like the very light side. And my plan was to use the same pencil that I was sketching with to add a little bit of a softer shadow or shading to like the areas that I already placed with color. And I do really like this color combination. I think later on I kind of assumed that I've already used this particular color combination with colored pencils, which you'll see later that I think it's not really the same, but to me, for some reason, I thought I've used something similar in the sketchbook. Maybe it's in a different one and I'm kind of tripping right now. But to kind of keep things still a little bit monochromatic-ish for each individual sketch, I thought it would be nice to just let myself use the same sketching pencil to cover up any extra marks, or if I wanted to darken some areas or separate it a little bit more, then I can do it with just the same sketching pencil, because the blue really shows up because I did not erase after I did the inking. So if you want like more of a clean look, definitely erase all of your stray lines and don't let your alcohol markers kind of like lock it in, because that's kind of what I had happen here, and I didn't really find a reason to really erase at all. Then we are moving on to our second little outfit. So this one has like a really cute short top, I guess like a cropped cardigan with long sleeves, which I find very cute, and kind of like more of a frillier top of the dress, and then it just kind of bellows out a little bit, and I think it just looks super adorable. I am not like the type of person who wears like a lot of dresses, but I like drawing at least some of my female OCs with dresses or like more frillier clothing. I guess it's like a little bit more on the feminine side. Even though like I do think dresses for the most part are pretty like loose and comfy if you style them to your preference. But for me, I just like wearing things that are, I don't have to like worry about accidentally flashing somebody or having a lot of mobility. I might wear dresses like more in the future, or like at least skirts and stuff, because the summers here are now getting like really hot. So it'd be kind of nice to have some dresses as an option so that things are a little bit more breathable. So for this doodle, I did not realize how botched her face was. I know it's not really the focal point for any of these drawings, but the face is like the most important to me. But the way how I was sitting was kind of like at an angle. So I thought I was drawing her face like straight, I guess, but in the end it was kind of like lopsided compared to where her jaw was, and I think it doesn't help with the phone covering her chin area that the face looks even more oddly angled in comparison where her eyes should be angled. But for the most part, out of all of these particular drawings, I do think this one's probably my least favorite. I do like the outfit and I think it's cute, and it's probably one of the outfits I think I could tailor to Reimu's like aesthetic in a way, maybe in the future when I do it digitally. But the other doodles, I just find that I kind of had an easier time working with them, and I just liked them a little bit more, either because of the color combination or I just had a more fun time working on them when I was doing the outfits. And at this point, this is kind of where I decided that I would keep all the doodles to have their own main color to be separate from each other, and then we can still use the blue on top to shade or add more shadows, because the previous sessions that I've done for sketchbook doodling videos, I've been mostly doing like monochromatic, dual chromatic kind of pages, which I personally enjoy, but I know I don't want to do too many repetitive sketchbook doodling sessions since I don't do too many traditional videos in my sketchbook besides doing them for like a Monday video. So if you see them every Monday, you might get bored of seeing just a plain old one color every time. So for this one in particular, I believe the reference photo had a little bit more of like that golden yellowish color alongside with white. So I wanted to stick with yellow just because it reminded me of the same reference photo. But for the subsequent, I think, sketches, I don't really tailor the color palette too much to the actual outfit. Like I mentioned, like for the first drawing, for the references, I'm not going to be using them as like a one-to-one representation. I'm using it more like the base of the outfit is what I'm looking for. I'm not really copying the accessories or the pose or anything like that, so it's not really my focus. And I guess in that case, I didn't really stick too closely to any of the color palettes either. This one, and I think there's one other one that's kind of an exception, but I think I don't use yellow too much in my sketchbook in general, so it's kind of nice to have a little bit of that pop of yellow. I definitely draw more stuff that's like pink and blue or purple and that kind of like color combination, or even like green and peach colored, or like turquoise and like orange or anything like that. This tends to be like the color palette that I'm drawn to. But we're moving on to probably my favorite sketch out of all of them, and this is probably the one that I want to at least take into like a digital version at some point when I find some time, because the outfit I think is just kind of cute, and I love drawing Reimu with kind of like a high ponytail since she has like a lot of hair. So it looks kind of fun when it's like a high pony when it drapes all the way down and it's kind of more textured and wavy, so it's fun to draw for me. But for the outfit, I think it's just kind of fun and very kind of spring summery feeling. I would definitely like to see if I can do like a digital version and kind of tailor it kind of more towards her aesthetic and add like accessories that kind of represent her and stuff. I think it'll just be kind of fun to do eventually. I don't think I really talked about this too much, but there is one thing that I wanted to do. I don't know if I'll do it in this sketchbook per se, but maybe in the future, to kind of curate a specific color palette to work with in the sketchbook. Now, I do have my favorite color palette, which happens to be like that peachy orange color alongside with a pale blue. And I've used this previously in so many other sketchbooks, especially during my uni days. And I kind of like recently brought it back because I was playing around looking for like different color combinations. Ohuhu marker sets alongside with the Artex alcohol marker sets that I currently own. And the reason being that I have been kind of like debating on which color scheme that I really want to go with is, one, I don't want to get sick of it, and then two, I want to have the markers on hand as convenient as possible for myself, so I would like to bring it around with me. But the one thing I worry about the most is not being able to refill the markers. So I have been browsing between seeing what Ohuhu offers as refills for their markers, since I do have a lot of Ohuhu markers, so it'll probably be easier to refill markers that I currently own. And then I don't think Artex sells refills for their markers. Now, obviously, I don't really want to buy like individual markers and have to keep replenishing the marker itself. That's why I want to go to the refillable route. But then I was looking at mostly Copic markers. Now, I know Copics tend to be more pricier, but they do have refills for every color available that they have for their selection. So I'm probably gonna browse around and see what colors I think I want, and then probably pick maybe up to 4 colors. I'll probably pair them off 2 and 2, and then have 2 different color combinations I can kind of go back and forth as like my main staple in my sketchbook. Because other than using graphite and pencil, all that, pen and a marker, it's just something fun about it, using it in a sketchbook. You can use it very loosely. Like I tend to do a little bit more, not like super loosely like some other people can do, but I would sketch something kind of rough and then block it in with the markers, and then we do line art on top, which tends to be cleaner and it kind of tightens up the entire drawing or the sketch together. Or we could do something a little bit more structured. So do the sketch, do very clean line art to the best of my ability, and then do our coloring within the lines, making things very deliberate, I guess, in that case, which is kind of what I'm doing here where it's not as messy. I definitely think that the ones that I did in the previous sketchbook had a much more cleaner look, and it might have been because I was very confident in what I wanted to sketch. For these ones, I've been, I don't know, I was kind of like deciphering what I ended up sketching and kind of translating that to ink, and then I kind of ended up changing certain things when I was doing the line art and the inking, so it's like kind of a weird back and forth of not knowing what I wanted to do with the drawings themselves. But that's kind of like another reason why I've been doing more color palette-ish videos in terms of working in my sketchbook, so trying to find color combinations that I really like. I definitely think I'm leaning towards the blue and the peach, but I would like to have more of a, maybe a turquoisey color and a yellow, or a turquoise and a peach color instead. And then I would like to have just one more. So either it'll be pink and blue, or like peach and blue, or it'll be peach and like a turquoise mint color, or I'll go in a different direction and find like, I don't know, some other color combination that I think will work really well. But I am drawn towards like more of the pastel colors since I do like working with black ink the most. But yeah, I think this one ended up being my favorite little sketch from our spread today, but I do have a little bit of room between kind of like the edge of our spread and this little doodle, so I'll end up sketching two little things on the upper portion and the lower portion of our right hand side of our sketchbook. So to start off, I ended up drawing a very tiny version of one more outfit. This outfit I actually really like as well, and I think I kind of want to do something with her hair that's similar to this, where it's a low bun on either side of her head, so I guess like on the left and the right hand side, but you have like a lot of hair that like hangs from it. I've seen this hairstyle quite a bit, and I always think it looks really cute with like textured or wavy hair, so I kind of want to do something with this one as well. I might do like a mini, I don't know what I want to do with all these outfits that are of hopefully Reimu in the future. So even though I ended up drawing Reimu today, a lot of these outfits and alongside with like the hair probably would also fit my OC Sato, which I was debating on drawing her initially, but because I'm a little rusty at drawing her, I was scared I was gonna butcher this particular spread really badly, so I ended up drawing Reimu instead, even though like technically none of these drawings or doodles really look like her. I just really wanted to have a little bit more of like a free time. I don't know, how do you explain it? Having a little bit less pressure drawing somebody, I guess, in this case. Which kind of feels a little bit backwards considering that I always tell myself that whenever I draw fan art, it feels like a lot more pressure rather than drawing my OCs. But I do want to do, I don't know, there's a lot of drawings that I want to do this year, but I haven't found the time to yet. But a few more illustrations of at least like Moriko, Akemi, Sato, and Koji. They're kind of like my more neglected OCs. I've definitely drawn Masaki and Kaisen the most. And then I'll definitely come back and try to finish and finalize everything for Akemi's siblings, because there's a lot of different illustrations that I want to do for them specifically, but I don't want to tackle it until I like finalize their design fully, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But moving along from the smaller little doodles, I ended up picking like a light blue color for the bottom doodle just because the monochromatic look just looks really nice. And then we're moving on to one more doodle into the upper right hand corner. So this one's not specifically like for an outfit, but I found this hairstyle very, very cute and adorable. And I, for the longest time in high school, would only draw faceless people, but I drew a lot of like hairstyles with pen and fine liner. So I used to do a lot more hair studies, I guess, for hairstyles, and I kind of want to do it again, but this one's more of like a simplified version. The ones that I did in high school were more like value focused and like with the shape and the form, and I don't know, it was just really focused on the hair. These ones were a little bit more like scratchy of my pen and see where it kind of leads me. But I think Overall, I will probably combine the last three into some sort of like illustration or something, or I'll do like a sketch page of Reimu, something of that sort, whenever I find some downtime. But hopefully you guys enjoyed watching and hear me ramble a little bit about color palettes and fashion and all that kind of stuff for today's video. But I think that is it for today's little session. Now I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a close-up because you can kind of see what it looks like with the pencil on top of the alcohol marker. I think from far away it looks a little bit more smooth, but when you get closer it's definitely a little rough. I was looking back in my sketchbook to see whether or not I've used this particular color combination together, but it looks like I used a little bit more of like a turquoise blue alongside with it, so it wasn't exactly the same. I'm probably losing my voice, but I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video. Bye!